Hey guys, welcome to DM Talk. Tonight, three topics. We're going to talk about different things about how do you make combat better for your campaign. Topic number one, we're going to go over that. The other two topics we'll go over shortly. But before we begin, we're going to talk about, man, I got a bad hair day. But before we begin, we're going to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow we have at 8 p.m. Central, we have a big game, Drow City Part 2, the campaign called The Light. Join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. Love you guys, love my subscribers. Thank you for sticking with us because we have good stuff. And of course, let's continue with DM Talk. DM Talk. Tonight, we're going to talk about how to make combat better. Well, that's not simple sometimes. And if combat can be boring, the constant, you got to move, you got to take action, you got to use your spells, you got to do whatever you have character-wise. And as you go from level 1 to level 2 and 3 and so on, combat slows down even more. Why? Because of everything that the character has. There is a lot to combat. And when you have, let me bring up a character per se. When you have, we're going to look at little Lila from the Light campaign. When you have one attack at low level, she's level 4, she can gets one attack. Guiding Bolt, unarmed strike. Of course, she's not going to do an unarmed strike because she is a little girl, and she's not going to do that. She's going to use her Guiding Bolt, which for her, she's a cleric, is more powerful than a punch. But she's going to go ahead and do that. And Guiding Bolt for 120 feet away, she can use that. A +5 to hit. She rolls a 20. Add your modifier, 4d6 damage. Fantastic. Now, your bonus. He has a spiritual weapon. So there you go. It's all she can do. Now, the thing about combat, we have to realize that in combat, in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons, you have to make it exciting. So, what I did was, and I do this personally, is when we do combat, we kind of like, okay, I pull my sword out, shink, and I attack. It's okay to do that, but let's make it more exciting. You look at your opponent, you say a couple words, and then you attack. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. It's exciting. You're interacting with the NPCs, you're interacting with everybody in the game, and you're making it fun. You can do that. But even with the clashing and acting and combat can be cumbersome. And what do? How do you speed it up? How do you make it exciting? So there's other ways you can do it. A lot of ways. And here is one. Two, actually. I said make it exciting by delivering emotion and so forth where you're fighting instead of just saying, I'm attacking, slash. It's okay to do that. But you can go ahead and throw that emotion in there. So to make combat exciting, you're not going to take away that element from the player. You're going to go ahead and just do what you do. You're going to jump into combat, roll the dice, and do what you can. And I pull my sword out and I slash them. If you're a creature, you yell, you scream. You just get excited. It's a game. But when you have at upper levels so many things to do, that excitement goes down. And it sucks because we all love Dungeons and Dragons, but combat is all a part of it. It's a big part of it. And when you're going up against a character or an NPC, guess what happens? That excitement just goes down. So I said number one, get exciting. Describe what you're doing, get into the combat, role play the combat. You're doing it, you're kicking some butt, role play the situation. Number one. Number two, just as important as one, you deliver something more. And how do you do that? How do you deliver something more in combat? That you're acting, you're just doing whatever. Go forward. Just don't say I'm rolling 2d6. I hit him with my sword. Say you're going to hit him. Grab your sword and you're going to swing. Or if you're using magic, fireball, or whatever, get into that. Because if you don't, it's that excitement is going to go down. There's a third, and this is all together. This coincides with everything. A third part of making combat exciting is that initiative. Initiative, man, I have initiative trackers. I finally bought these on Amazon. They're great. You could, use dry erase markers, wipe them down. They're great. I got 12 of them, and they're great. And the part that sucks about combat the most, to me, is initiative. Who goes first? What if, and this is in the Dungeon Master Guide, you could look it up. Or if you don't want to do this, you can use no initiative, group initiative per se. Everybody, who goes first? One person rolls for their group, and they go. There you go. It's more, to me, it's more realistic. But this season in my campaign, we're not doing that. We're doing it by the book initiative, one after another, because as you go up in levels, if you're a rogue or if you're a ranger or whatever you are class-wise, it'll take away those special abilities and so forth that those characters have, those classes have. And if you're playing those classes, you might want them. So there is good and bad to not having initiative and having initiative. So you guys as DMs could go ahead and do it. You guys and gals could go ahead and figure it out for yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to use this in my campaign. When we do session 0, we're going to talk it over with the players, and we're all going to say, hey, we're going to use no initiative. We're going to use strictly, group initiative. There are games out there where they don't do individual initiative. They roll for a group. Roll a 6-sided, per se. You roll 6-sided. The person who has a higher number goes first. And that's it. Or maybe on a 1, 2, or 3, the enemy goes. On a 4, 5, and 6, the player goes. So, give or take, you can do that. And on top of that, with group initiative, you could pick who wants to go first. Doesn't have to be in order. There's other games out there that has, okay, we're doing a group initiative, but your range has to go. And range can be on their magic too. So if you have guiding bolt or fireball, you're going to be under the range category. And then, of course, melee. So there you go. It's fast, and you move it. Those are ways that you could, make combat exciting. And combat speed increases, believe it or not. I've tested both. And group initiative is by far the best to me, in my opinion, because it just speeds things up and you go as a group and it's realistic. Combat doesn't work like this. If somebody's going to punch you, or there's, let's say, two gangs are going at it, right? 5 guys are going up against 5 guys, 5 and 5, and the two groups fight, and all of a sudden they're going to say, no, you go first. No, that's not the way combat works. Everybody's going to jump in, or they're going to do different stuff at different times. You can say, oh, wait a second, that's initiative, Henry. You just said initiative. Yeah, maybe, but no, it doesn't work like that. Because group initiative, you're going to be like, you're going to go first, and then the enemy's going to go. Well, maybe they're a little faster. You know what I mean? You got the drop on somebody, and if you do, go ahead. To me, it's just more realistic when you have a group going instead of one individual and then go. And if you have a group of players that are numbskulls, what are you going to do? It just happens. So the best way to make combat exciting, in my opinion, is to really, really intensify combat by acting your part. Like I said before, if you're going to deliver a punch, I'm going to punch you. Get into that excitement, number one. Number two, and it's important, you just emphasize what you're going to do before you do it. Oh, I'm gonna use my sword. I want to grab my bow and arrow, pull the cord back. Describe what you're doing. That's all part of combat. If you just say, I want to hit him with my arrow, with my bow, with my +3 sword, I want to hit him with my sword, it's not going to work. It's going to be boring. You just say, I want to hit him with my bow, and I want to pull the cord back. Grab my arrow, pull the cord back. That's a little bit more exciting. You're getting into the character and playing the game. That's what it is. If you want to play a board game, then play a board game. Play Monopoly. Play a kid game, Chutes and Ladders. Play chess. Play whatever. Play whatever board game you want, but this is not a board game. This is a role-playing game. Get into it. Role-play your character. And emphasize what you're going to do before you do it. Say, I want to grab my sword. Grab your sword. Pull your sword out of the scabbard. Unsheath the sword. Whatever you're going to do, just say it. Say it, mean it, express it. That's role-playing. You're not playing a board game. If you're playing a board game, then I can understand it. Okay, so that's it for topic number 1. Yay. Topic 2. And I got this from, I went to Reddit and I was checking out different, what people talk about in Dungeons and Dragons, and I wanted to look up new topics. And one of the things that I saw that it enticed me was players that build OP characters. Powerful characters. They go on Reddit or they go online and they find the best possible build, and they say, I want to use it. So how do you deal with that as a DM? Do you just say, hey, no, you can't do it. You're going to have to make it from scratch? You can. Or maybe, sorry, my allergies are bad. Or maybe you can just talk with him or her and say, you know what? Let's do it. Make the build. Make it challenging for the DM. The challenge is a good thing. You don't want to just sit there and say, be boring. Be the same DM that all DMs are. Don't be different. This guy wants an arcane archer, this build that he found online. He wants to do the same build. Then do it. as long as the DM and the player is coinciding with each other. They're agreeing. They're saying, "Hey, it's cool. This is what I'm going for. All right, I'm green lighting your character. Go ahead and pick the class, dual class, whatever." The guys asked me, "Can we dual class?" Yeah, I don't mind it. But there's a problem with dual classing, because let's say you want a paladin and you want to be a rogue, right? The paladin's very cool, the rogue is cool, but when you at upper levels, when you're higher and higher in levels, you get, the best of both worlds, but are you really? No. You're gonna kind of diminish yourself as a rogue and diminishing yourself as a paladin. So I'd say stick with the one class and go from there. Dual class is cool for some people. I've done it sometimes, didn't like it so much, but I've had other friends of mine who have dual class and they did a good job. Now, how do you deal with that power in your game? Well, now that you've managed to tell your player you can build them, and they're going to say, not a problem. We're going to go ahead and build this amazing character, amazing class, and then this build that he saw online, he's going to present it to you, and then you're going to say, oh, well, maybe not. It all depends on what you decide as a DM and what the player decides. You talk it over and you go from there. But if he's in the campaign, if that particular class is in the campaign and that build is in the campaign, don't complain as a DM when one of your episodes, that player does something amazing and all of a sudden, guess what happens? He's very overpowered. And then as a DM, you're going to have to deal with it. Oh, I need my wormling dragon didn't work out too well. He's an arcane archer and he really whoops some ass on my wormling. My red dragon got bested by three of the players in the game, because you told them that the build was going to be good. You said you greenlit the building, and basically everything was good. So all of a sudden, in your game, the players are overly powerful because you said yes. As a DM, you approved it, and there you go. And it happens to all DMs, me included. I mean, we're not perfect, but here's an example. In season 1, I gave one of the guys found a very powerful weapon, the dragon sword, and it was overly powerful. I wanted an epic fantasy feel. Epic, powerful, magic, dragons, big, huge fighting scenarios, and we got that. We achieved that, but with consequences. For example, I had one of the weapons that literally was homebrew that stopped an enemy from charging in. And when I did that, in game, I didn't realize, or I did realize it, but didn't care at the time. I said, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. It'll be fun. Yeah, it might be fun, but when you want to achieve a certain story arc for a game, and the players clobber half of your creatures with that weapon, there's a problem. It was OP. Yeah, it was cool. They're heroes. They should be doing stuff like that, right? Maybe it should be balanced. Maybe it shouldn't have been that powerful. Maybe the sword should have just, been a +1. Nothing big, right? It happens. Look, role-playing, and this is something that I will constantly pounding anyone who's new and anyone who watches the channel and this show that I'm a firm believer in imagination. Fiction is beautiful, and especially epic fantasy. So if you are going to create something homebrew, and let's do it. You know the rule of cool? I'm all for that. Let's do it. Oh, well, under the guides of Dungeons and Dragons, you can't do it. It would be overly powerful. Yeah, it will be overly powerful. Yeah, it will break it. But who cares, right? It's just a game. You're having fun too, and it's an epic fantasy. How cool is it that this player has a cool ass sword, and all of a sudden he has that sword and he cuts down his opponent with one hit? And that opponent, that NPC, that creature, whatever it is highly powerful. And you just nailed him because he has a massive sword. And it's not in the rules. It's homebrew. It goes beyond, does damage that's unsettling. And all of a sudden you do something extraordinary, beautiful, which is very story-like because you're an epic character in an epic campaign, right? So why wouldn't you do that? Oh, well, under the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, and that sword is way too powerful, it just wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work? Because you don't want it to work? Because it doesn't make sense? It's not balanced? Well, fuck that. Want to know why? That sword is fantasy. How cool is it if somebody has this big ass sword going up against a dragon and throws the sword, right? Hits the dragon here, and all of a sudden blood just spurts out and the dragon starts to fall, takes massive damage. How cool is that? The hero did that. That's all what Dungeons and Dragons is about. It's about fun, right? It's the fantasy part of it. And I think that DMs, players, our community have forgotten about that. They forgot about it. Oh, well, let me look in the rule book. No, I'm for the rule of cool. I'm for stuff like that. I am for, well, it's only 3d6 damage. No, give it more. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but it broke it. You broke. Why don't you just play the game? Why don't you just immerse yourself in a fictitious world that is fantasy? That's what role-playing is about. And I really pound this in DMs and players that I meet because I just want to tell them, hey guys, who cares? Stop the bickering of the rules and get into your character role-playing. That's what it is. It's a role-playing game. Period. That's what it is. And most people forgot that. They continue to forget about it. Because one of the things that most people do not like is the fact that the role-playing game is there, but yet we're going to roll these dice. Hang on a second. Let me look in page 35 of the player's manual and find out how to use that. Well, it doesn't work. Why it doesn't work? Because for one, you're wasting time. You're pausing the game to look up a rule when you just look it up later. Play the game, have fun, and do it. If it's so what? If the damage is wrong, we'll talk about it later. In my games, when you play at my table, if there's a rule that need to be, if it's imperative and everybody's in on it, we'll look it up as quickly as possible. But if I know it's going to take longer, no. Stop right there and do something else. Just role play and get on with the game. It destroys the flow of the game. I absolutely hate that. We'll talk about rules, we'll talk about things away from the table after you're done. And if you, as a DM, allow someone, a player, to make an overly powerful class or a build per se, then fine. It's your game. You're the game master. You're the dungeon master. You can go ahead and say, yeah, I'm for it, or no, I'm not for it. You can do that. It's fine. But remember, in the game, when something happens and you have a story arc, and that player, for here we use the arcane archer, does something heroic and something extraordinary, and you expected some death, or you have written an emotional scene that somebody died, but that character came down and saved the princess, but that princess was gonna die. Guess what? Boom, boom. Is it your fault as DM? No, it's not. It's just circumstances, right? No, it's ultimately your fault because you let the player use an OP build. You said yay. But don't blame yourself. Just go with it. If you okay something, go with it. It's a lot of fun, trust me. I'm for having fun more than anything else. So, and if they are going to sit here and complain about, well, that didn't work out, so and so didn't have enough range, he shouldn't have got that attack, yada yada yada. Stop it right there. Continue. So what? Just go with it. I'd rather just play the game and talk it over, so next time it doesn't happen, so we're refreshed. That's why as a DM I worry about my stuff, and I want my players to be on top of what they got. If you're playing a paladin, you're doing divine smite, you better know what it is. If you're playing cleric and you're gonna do guiding light, guiding bolt, you better know what it is. I can't believe I said that. A guiding bolt. You better know what it is. If you're gonna play a fighter, you get an extra attack, you better apply it correctly. That's just me. And you get an extra attack and stuff like that, things like that are simple, you should know that. Because an OP build, sometimes you look at what you've made and you get lost in the intricacies of that build. And you're like an arcane archer. I can do so much. You can do so much with that. There's so much in the arcane archer. Here, in fact, I have one for you. Let's take a look at this arcane archer. Okay, so we're looking at what an arcane archer can do. Arcane shot, twice per shot, per short rest, and once per turn. When you fire an arrow from a short bow or a long bow as a part of the attack action, you can apply one arcane shot option. You get two before short rest. What are they? Bursting arrow. Very cool. After arrow hits a creature, the target and all creatures. I have this bug on my mic. Sorry. Fire an arrow. Let me see. All other creatures within 10 feet takes 2d6 force damage. How cool is that? Seeking arrow. You can choose one creature you have seen in the past minute and fire an arrow that flies towards that creature, moving around corners and ignoring 3/4 cover and half cover. How cool is that? So now you have this OP build, going back to the arcane archer, and at higher levels, this arcane archer is going to put an arrow up your yin yang because all of a sudden you decided as a DM to say, hey, I'm going to accept you. I'm going to accept that OP character in my game. You said yes. Don't complain about it as DM. Don't complain about it. Play the game. Have fun and let that player enjoy their build and the game that they're in. Topic number 3. This topic, I left the best for last. I read this on Reddit. Frustrated DM, he had a party in his campaign, a party of 6. And he said he prepped for hours. He did voices. The live was terminated on Facebook, typical by Facebook. So he world build, hours of prep, he did voices, and he did a lot of things. He did more than a DM, normal DM does. You don't have to do voices. I like doing voices, but you don't have to. Let me check my levels here for some reason. Okay. Everything so far is good. Okay, so let me get back here. So now this frustrated GM is doing voices, hours of prep, world building, all that stuff, and his players, they were upset. One of them was upset because in the story, the rogue went into a house, and the people in the house were farmers, and the farmers were poor, and the rogue didn't really care, and he stole everything in the house, the farmer's house. And when he came out, there was a fight, because the fight ensued because there was people in the area that noticed that the house was being vandalized and stolen or whatever. The gold was being stolen or whatever they had in there. It wasn't very important because the farmer was poor. So the rogue took what he did and he got into a big fight and was injured badly. The other party members came in there and it caused a big ruckus and a huge battle ensued. So now here is this problem. He said that he was frustrated, he did the best he could, and the players, one of them quit because of that, and then followed by the others, they quit as well. So, how do you deal with all that? A session 0 is so important. They know who you are as a DM. They know that you're going to do voices. They know that you're going to do this world building. They know that you're going to do consequences, and in my games, everything has a consequence. If you do something, if I would have dealt with that situation, that rogue would have went into the house and started stealing. The stealing is not the problem. It's the fact that he was fighting afterwards. Well, he was defending himself, yeah, but he was doing wrong. So now, what do you think's going to happen? You think the NPCs are going to be like, let him take the house? No, it's not going to happen. That's BS. It's not going to happen at all. So, how do you deal with all that? How do you deal with that in role-playing, where all of a sudden your players get butthurt because of situations you have in the game? Remember, ultimately you're there to have fun. And if you do something like murder hobos out there, you murder hobos out there, I know there is plenty of people out there because I've dealt with them through the years of my life. I've dealt with people just going, I just want to go ahead and kill and do whatever. And they find that fun. I don't. So how do you deal with that situation? And this goes far beyond murdering people in the game, murder hoboing. goes beyond that, because this gentleman was frustrated. And my message to him, or my advice to him, is don't be. It's not you, sir. It's your players. When you play a game of Dungeons and Dragons and you're playing a fictitious world of fantasy or whatnot, there are consequences. If you go to a town and you burn it down just for shits and giggles, what do you think is going to happen? That militia in that town is going to go after you and probably kill you. What I would have done in that scenario, that rogue would have been dragged, beaten, and then beheaded. Yeah. Simple as pie. Why? Because there are consequences. It's not because it is stealing. It's because of what happened afterwards. Maybe he rolled a bad deception check. Maybe he just wasn't rolling very well and he had to do a fight. He had to get into a fight. So he went down. And then all the party members came out to help him. And instead of dealing with the problem through role-playing, they got into a battle, and it led to one thing or another, and it got worse. So now you have a bad issue taking a dive to worse or more because the players did not like the way the DM had set everything up. I would have done it differently. I would have said, oh, yeah, you took from a farmer, but that farmer knows the governor of that town. They're old friends. Maybe the farmer's wife loves knitting and she makes things for the governor's wife. Maybe a blanket, or some clothes or whatnot. Here's another one. Maybe there was a circle around the barn. It lit up red. In that circle is a spell, a ritual of some kind. And maybe the rogue took money, took all the stuff that they had, very little, maybe silver, copper, maybe a few things here and there, and came out and noticed an individual with a red cloak. And then 4 behind him. Oh, yeah, I would have done that. You want to go ahead and do something? Yeah, go ahead. It's not revenge. It's not DM fighting against players. It's, oh, you're going to go ahead and do something for shits and giggles because you want to be an ass to the DM because you don't like the way the story's going. So you just want to ruin it. You just want to be an asshole. That's primarily what you're doing. When you do that in a game, it ruins the game altogether, and you're no longer playing a game. Now you're fighting. Now it's DM against player because that person is just fighting. That person is, I'm looking at my levels again, making sure I'm good. Facebook stream was terminated, but it's okay. I still got Twitch. Thank you on Twitch for watching. YouTube and Rumble. So how do you deal with a situation like that? Do you go to the player, hey dude, you're wrong? Yeah, the player's wrong. You hear my cat? My cat. I might have to put her in the laundry room. Does it all the time. Come on. Come up here. Come on. Come on. Come up here. My cat Charlie. Come on. Come on. This is my cat Charlie. Yeah, she is a force to be reckoned with, and she doesn't like to be held right now. But either way, we could have used you for creatures of the realm, but it's okay. Anyways, what do you do in that situation? The players are unhappy, you're unhappy, and my advice to you, sir, is to find the new party. Find the new party. Did you just bite me? She just bit me. Here, I'll put her down. Anyways, find a new party, sir. Find a new party. Find new players, new people to play with in your game, because it seems to me that they're being mean, and you can't be mean in a game like this. Most people don't understand, and I'm going to say this to players, not DMs. DMs, we understand it takes a long time. And hold on one second. I'm going to go ahead and put her in the laundry room. You guys can hear me because she's just being obnoxious right now. You're going to go in the laundry room. All right. Go right here. Laundry. Lights on. Okay, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I didn't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave. I'm coming back. I don't want her jumping on my equipment. All right, so the situation with these players, it'll get worse as time goes along. And in a role-playing game, you tend to, as a DM, you work with the world building, you write the world and whatever sites you can go online and find how to do things, how to world build, how to make NPCs, how to make things better. There's tons of advice, but one advice I have for the players is, if you know what a DM does, you wouldn't do that, but you still do, because if out of consideration, you shouldn't murder hobo because you don't like the DM. If you don't like the DM, you don't like his story or her stories, just don't play. Excuse yourself and go somewhere else. You can go online and find 1,000 DMs or whatnot. I mean, that's how it is, right? This is a pretty touchy subject for me, because throughout my life, when I gamed when I was younger, I role played many times, and I've been in games that were rough. I've been in games that were very long, very short, and I've been with people that are mean. I've been with people who didn't give a shit about you or I, and they just would literally sit here and say you're wrong, when in fact, wait a second, isn't this a role-playing game? Oh wait, you're role-playing wrong, Henry. This is not the way you role-play the character. Really? So how do you role-play the character? How do you role-play the character, sir? Isn't it not me giving life to that character and not you? How do you role-play the character? So they look at you, and the DM or Game Master would look at you and they say, well, Henry, you're doing it wrong. Back then when I was young and I didn't know what I was doing, so I looked it up and I was doing it right. It's just the connection wasn't there. I've been in games where I was mean. I don't know why, because I didn't understand at the time what a game master went through, what a DM goes through. I was literally being a murder hobo, something I'm totally against. And the DM was pissed, and I never was allowed back in that campaign. And I get it. I understand that. I wanted a little bit of action. I enticed the game by doing things that he did not want to see or hear. Was it my fault? Absolutely. We were at a wagon and it was pulled by 4 horses. You know, you had the rider, and then you had the 3 in the back. We had 5 or 6. No, we had We had 6 people in the back. I'm sorry, 6 people, and including the one that was corralling the horses. So we were in the back, and all of a sudden, the wagon's going at an extreme speed. There wasn't combat, but combat. What we do? Combat started because I started. You know, all of a sudden, I saw individuals with horses, the left to the right of us, and they were, you know, going to trap us. A forest was up ahead, and once we get in the forest, we're done for. So what I did was, I got out of the wagon, and when the wagon was moving, I got out and I threw my dagger at one of the horsemen, and I hit him. But you could tell the DM was angry. He didn't want me to do that. And it's not like I was doing he was railroading everybody. He just didn't understand why I did it, because you didn't know what these riders wanted. They weren't hostile per se. They were just next to us. Now, I did mention that there was a forest up ahead, and in my head, I thought 10 steps ahead, and I'm doing the right thing. You know, they're going to trap us before they're going to, you know, surround us. And I went. So basically, I started combat, because what happened was exactly my thinking 10 steps ahead worked well, and they stopped us, and we got into battle. The guys got out, but hurrah, huzzah! We're getting in the battle. Yada, yada, yada. So how do you deal with that as a DM? Man, that wasn't cool. Look, every DM has a certain temperament. Every DM has a certain circle. So when you do a session 0, the players are out of that circle, and you're going to corral all of them in. Just bring them in that circle. You know, bring them in. Bring them in. You're that border collie going around. You know, the cattle's going to follow. Bring them in that circle. Why? Because as the DM, you're going to tell them who you are, what your campaign's about, what you want, you know, what limitations on classes and so forth. All that stuff is so very important, because if you don't tell them that, there's no structure. There's no focus. And the first thing, when I started DMing, when I was younger, the first thing, and I really hate this, because, and I'm going to say that because it's embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you anyways. When I was a young DM, I made a lot of mistakes. And everybody who says, and even the professionals out there, now their experience, if they don't make mistakes, wrong, they do. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is 100% perfect. So let's go back 20 plus years. And when I first started DMing, I was doing all these things, and I made really bad mistakes. And I really hate when somebody's like, oh, so why are we doing this? Why are we going into that mansion? Why are we going to that forest? What's the plan? What's our focus? What's our mission? That is why you need a session 0. In the Light campaign, season 2, I told my players, or they're playing orphans. What brings these orphans together? Well, there was a great fire in the orphanage. The fire burned down the orphanage the first time. They rebuilt it. There was a second one. So, and it was a massive building. So that building went down. A lot of orphans died. Some survived, and which is the party members, and they're closer together. They will not fight against each other. Why? Because they're like brother and sister. They're not blood, but that brought them together. They're not going to backstab each other. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't do that to the NPCs in the world, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that. I think that's great. So, how do you, as a whole, and I'm going to ask this to, and you can put it down in the comments, tonight or whenever. How do you deal with players that are rude and literally break up your campaign or story more than once? Will you kick them out? You find new players? Me? I'm going to avoid all that by giving a session 0. Once you do a session 0, they will know if they're right for the campaign. Because you're telling them there's going to be a lot of blood. We swear a lot. It's a high fantasy. There is no murder hoboing. That's a big one for me. Bullshit. Why? Somebody's going to be like, why? Because I don't tolerate it. I think that if you're going to go into a room and kill people, I think that's bullshit. I think you're just doing that because you want to do it. I think you're just being a pathetic little bitch. That's exactly what I would tell them. Because you are. Because that's not fun. Why is that fun to you? Tell me, why is that fun? It's not. It's not fun. It's exceedingly frustrating. Now, if you're going to do an evil campaign, that's different. There's a different set of rules. So, in session 0, you're going to keep those people that you like or don't like, and those players, and you're going to tell them what your game's about. So then they're all going to be on board, or they're all going to be like, nah. So let's say you have 8 people, and out of the 8, 5 love it. Only 3 left. That's good, isn't it? You got a party. You got a game. And guess what? You have an epic adventure. When I run something, I do epic fantasy. In season 2, it's more of a mystery, grounded. It's not so OP. I did milestone season 1. Season 2, I'm doing experience. It's a lot more work, but the guys are having fun. Everybody's having fun, and that is the core to D&D. Having fun. I cannot stress that. I mean, and even if you're playing Vampire the Masquerade, Cyberpunk, any OSRs, whatever, Morkborg, whatever you play, have fun ultimately. If you're going to get into this dribble of, well, what if I do this and blah, 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 and that and this, you're talking, it's not going to be fun. Look, you're in combat, do combat. If you're role-playing, role-playing. Don't go in combat and be like, hang on a second. So you're looking at your sheet, and then what? You're looking at your sheet, and what are you going to do? You're in combat. Attack. If you have a party of 5, and let's say you're doing an initiative, not group initiative, and you're the last in initiative, by the time it gets to you, you should know what you're doing. Strategy-wise, it's not that hard. Here's a scenario. You have a red dragon. You're in its lair. The exit to the lair is behind the dragon. And behind you is 2 tunnels. They're not very big. They're about the size of maybe more than a humanoid. So that's how it is. And in the middle of that area, there are rock formations, stalagmites, stalactites. They're there. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. So what do? Hold up your hand and then say, hey, I'm going to do combat. Initiative 1, that person's ready. Even if you're first in initiative, you know you're going up against a dragon. You know you're going to be 50 feet away or 40 feet away. To me, it's a little close. But either way, you know you're that far. And my cat is just making some noise in that laundry room. And I don't like that. But oh well. I'll get her later. So anyways, sorry, distracted. So if you're first in initiative, you should go ahead and do it. Fight. Okay, I'm gonna attack. I'm a fighter. Okay, I'm gonna use a ranged weapon, my arrow, whatever you have, a bow, a crossbow, shoot. Second, you have a ranger, same thing. You know what you're gonna do. Third in initiative, you better know what you're doing. Fourth, that person has absolutely no excuse. And fifth, that person should be bam, bam, boom, done. Next round. There you go. Creature goes. I should be ready. I'm attacking. Initiative number 1. I'm attacking him. Claw, bite, legendary action, wing attack, whatever. You should be ready. Period. I want to find out what's going on with my cat. Give me 1 second. I apologize. So anyways, so you should be ready. What are you doing, Paul? Come on. Yeah, she's making a noise. Anyways, so you should be ready in combat. So if I'm the dragon and the players went and combat went pretty fast, the first round or half of that round they did good in their initiative. The dragon went, wing attack, whatever. And just remember, a legendary action, you could break it up if in between actions with the player. So if player number 2 goes, right, and after their action, after player number 1, and you want to do a legendary action on player 2, when player 1's done, you can say, okay, legendary action, and then do your thing. So let's say he does a breath attack. A breath attack recharges out of 5 and 6 on a 6-sided roll. So you do that, you get a breath attack, it causes all havoc, everybody is disparted. Everybody is all over the place in the map, and now you have everybody all over. And now you have disarray. But it doesn't matter in combat, everybody has to be ready. And for a frustrated DM, I know this is digressing, but I'm getting to a point, trust me. So if you know that people want a certain DM, then do a session 0, explain to them what type of DM you are. What are you doing? My cat is just irritating me right now. All right. Explain to them, what do you want? Because if you don't, it can make or break your game. And you're going to have a problem. So, sir, the advice I have for you before I end this stream, I will tell you that one, do a session 0. Explain the type of DM you are or want to be. And then be honest with everybody. And then put down in your session 0s your do's and your don'ts. This is your do list. This is your don't list. This is who I am. This is what I don't want. Yada, yada, yada. Online, there's a list on session 0s, examples. They are very helpful. And that, my friend, is a way for you to keep people in your games. Because I believe reading that Reddit comment or post that you put up, and you were frustrated, and you know what? DMs get frustrated. Things happen in games that frustrate you as a DM, me, whoever. And the thing is that when we're playing a game, and this is a great game to play, you got to understand that sometimes people can be mean intentionally. And when that happens, the best way to do is, there's a door. Leave, I'll find someone else. Period. And those people that just left, not because something you did, it's because that wasn't the game for them. They wanted something far different. You wanted a story, you wanted a fantasy. And that's what Dungeons and Dragons is about, which I'm explaining right now. It's a fantasy. It's an epic fantasy. And when players and people in the community forget about that, and they just want to screw off, it's not fun anymore. So you want to move on and do other things. And that's why people don't come to games. That's why people they screw off. They get tired because they're not having fun. I hope, sir, that this helped, because I believe that from what I read, you had everything that you wanted, you envisioned in your game. And that vision was awesome. You wanted a fantasy. And what you got were players who wanted something different. They wanted to go maybe play a video game or something. Maybe not play D&D. See, Dungeons and Dragons is not for everybody. I'm telling you right now, it's role-playing in general is not for everybody. It is up to you to try it out once and then see if you like it or not. But it's all acting and being this other person in your character that you are. You want to be an elf? Be an elf. You want to be a drow? Be a drow. You want to be a fighter monk? Be a fighter monk. But it's all part of the fantasy in Dungeons and Dragons, and that's what it's about. Another thing I want to talk about before I end, this is very short. I want to talk about, and I saw this on YouTube, and they were talking about making characters. That today, 2024, folks don't make characters like they used to. Because they use D&D Beyond, they use these programs that make your characters quickly, drop. You have a drop menu and you have all these backgrounds, open a book and do it. I can open a book and do it, make a character from scratch. It takes longer, let me tell you, it does, because there's a lot of, let me look. In a D&D Beyond, it's fun. You can do one in 10 minutes or less. It's easy. We're so used to technology that you forget about the little things. What do I mean by that? Well, you have your abilities. Old school, back in the day, you rolled your stats, your abilities one by one. Not the way D&D Beyond does it, or now, where you just roll, point by. No, No point buying. Everything's roll. But when you do it manually, it's different. When you go on Beyond, you roll your digital dice, and you go from there. And if you look at a background, you can scroll and see dozens of backgrounds, and you can read them. Does that take time? Yeah, it might. Is it quick? Absolutely, it's quick. It takes time when you open up a book and you flip through pages, especially when you gotta go to another book. Oh, that feat isn't there. It's in the other book. So let me go grab the other book. I open it up, boom, there it is. But that takes time. So yeah, pen and paper, there's some good and bad from it. The good thing is you know how to actually level up. The bad thing is you don't, because you use digital. It does it for you. So, all I have to say, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central, guys, join us for episode 6 of the campaign, part 2 of the Drow City story arc. Be there, guys. I assure you we have some great content. We have a great group. And I'll see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central. See you, everyone.